What if the worst moment of your life turned out to be the beginning of your greatest purpose? Think about that. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that every plan you have made for your future is gone. The career you wanted, the dreams you worked for, the identity you built, everything destroyed in a single moment. How would you react? Would you fight? Would you surrender? Would you become bitter? Or would you discover a purpose greater than anything you had imagined? Tonight, we are exploring one of the most extraordinary stories in Christian history. A story of ambition, a story of loss, a story of transformation, and a story that begins not with a saint, but with a soldier. Before he became Saint Ignatius of Loyola, he wanted glory. He wanted adventure. He wanted fame. He dreamed of becoming a hero whose name would be remembered for generations. Born into a noble Spanish family, Ignatius grew up fascinated by stories of knights, stories of courage, stories of battles, stories of men who achieved greatness. And like many young people, he wanted his life to matter. He wanted to be somebody. He wanted the world to remember him. Maybe you understand that feeling. Most people want significance. Most people want purpose. Most people want to believe their life has meaning. Ignatius was no different. As he grew older, he embraced military life. He trained as a soldier. He pursued honor. He pursued recognition. And little by little, he moved closer to the future he had always imagined. Everything seemed to be going exactly according to plan. Until one day, one battlefield, one cannonball, 1 second. The year was 1521. French forces were attacking the city of Pamplona. The defenders were badly outnumbered. Many believed surrender was inevitable, but Ignatius refused. He wanted to fight. He wanted to prove himself. He wanted glory. So he stayed. The battle began. The walls shook. The air filled with smoke. The noise was deafening. Then suddenly, everything changed. A cannonball struck Ignatius. The impact shattered his leg. The pain was unbearable. The soldier who dreamed of becoming a hero collapsed onto the battlefield. His military career ended in a single instant. His future disappeared before his eyes. Imagine lying there, unable to move, unable to change what happened, unable to go back. Everything you planned, everything you expected, gone. That moment would become the turning point of his life. Not because he knew it, but because God often works through moments we don't understand. And what felt like the end was actually the beginning. Ignatius was carried home. The journey was long. The recovery was painful, and the months that followed felt endless. His body was wounded, but his heart was wounded too. For years he had imagined a future filled with glory. Now he could barely leave his bed. Day after day he stared at the walls. Day after day he replayed the battle in his mind. Why had this happened? Why now? Why him? Perhaps you've asked similar questions. Why did this relationship end? Why did this opportunity disappear? Why did this suffering enter my life? Ignatius knew those questions well, and yet something unexpected was about to happen. To pass the time, he asked for books. He wanted stories of knights and heroes, stories of adventure, stories that would help him escape reality, but those books were unavailable. Instead, he was given 2 very different books. One told the story of Jesus Christ. The other told the stories of the saints. At first, he read them reluctantly, but as the days passed, the stories began affecting him. The saints fascinated him, not because they were perfect, but because they had found something greater than themselves. They lived with purpose. They lived with courage. They lived with peace. And Ignatius realized something disturbing. The fame he wanted had never truly satisfied him. The glory he chased never truly fulfilled him. Every victory faded. Every dream left him wanting more. But whenever he imagined following Christ completely, something different happened. A deep peace entered his heart. A peace he had never experienced before. It didn't disappear, it remained. And for the first time in his life, Ignatius began to wonder if he had been chasing the wrong dream. Slowly, a new battle emerged. Not a battle against enemies, a battle within himself. One voice called him back to his old ambitions. The other invited him toward God. One path offered comfort. The other offered purpose. One path was familiar. The other was unknown. Which would he choose? The answer came gradually, prayer by prayer, day by day, little by little. Ignatius discovered that God was not asking him to become less. God was calling him to become more. More courageous, more generous, more faithful, more alive. Eventually, he made a decision that shocked everyone around him. He left behind the life he had planned. He left behind his old identity. He left behind the dream of becoming a famous soldier. And he began a completely new journey, one that would take him through mountains, monasteries, pilgrimages, and years of spiritual growth. Along the way, Ignatius learned something extraordinary. God often speaks through the deepest desires of our hearts, not through fear, not through pressure, but through peace. This insight transformed his life, and eventually it transformed millions of lives. Ignatius began writing down what he was learning: methods of prayer, ways of reflection, spiritual exercises designed to help people discover God's will. At first, they were personal notes. Later, they became one of the most influential spiritual guides in Christian history. What started in a hospital bed eventually spread across the world. The wounded soldier was becoming something entirely different. He was becoming a spiritual leader, a teacher, a guide, a saint. But his greatest mission still lay ahead. As the years passed, Ignatius gathered companions around him, men who shared his vision, men who wanted to dedicate their lives completely to God. Together they formed what would become the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits. At the time, nobody could have imagined what this small group would accomplish. Schools, universities, missionaries, writers, teachers, leaders. The influence of Ignatius spread across continents. His ideas shaped generations. His spiritual exercises changed millions of lives. His example continues inspiring people even today. And it all began because one cannonball shattered his plans. Think about that. The event that looked like a tragedy became a blessing. The moment that appeared to destroy his future revealed his true purpose. How often does God work that way? How often do we discover years later that our greatest disappointments became our greatest opportunities? Ignatius teaches us something powerful. The worst chapter of your life does not have to be the final chapter. Your setbacks do not define you. Your failures do not define you. Your suffering does not define you. What defines you is what you do next. When Ignatius lost everything, he could have become bitter. He could have lived with regret. He could have spent the rest of his life mourning what he had lost. Instead, he allowed God to transform him. And through that transformation, he changed the world. Perhaps that is why his story continues to resonate 500 years later. Because every one of us has experienced disappointment. Every one of us has faced moments that made no sense. Every one of us has wondered whether our struggles have a purpose. Ignatius answers that question with his life. Yes. Sometimes the thing that breaks you is the thing that reveals who you are meant to become. The cannonball did not destroy his life. It revealed it. And maybe there is something in your own life that needs to be seen through that same lens. A loss, a setback, a closed door. Perhaps it is not the end of your story. Perhaps it is the beginning of a new one. Before you go, I would love to hear from you. What part of Saint Ignatius' journey impacted you the most? Was it the battlefield, the recovery, the spiritual awakening, or the courage to start over? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story may encourage someone else who is watching. And if this video inspired you, don't forget to subscribe and join us for more extraordinary stories of faith, courage, saints, and transformation. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the greatest blessings arrive disguised as our greatest disappointments.